Hello, 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 hello. Molly here. What you're craving. Listen, it's November, and I don't know if you know this, but I need to tell you. This is like my I'm going to have a lot of public service announcements today, but this is my main one. Evil diet culture is in the wings right now, just waiting for you, because Jan 1 is the time that they come in and they hit, and I'm just on this quest to get us all unlocked and out of diet culture and finding our own inner strength and inner truth. And I'm going to start talking about that a lot. And if I think about why I started this podcast and the name What You're Craving, right? The whole point of the podcast is to understand what is underneath our issues with addiction, our issues with eating disorders, our issues with not living the big, beautiful life that we deserve. And the longer I'm doing this, and especially in the last 2 years since Breaking Up with Sugar came out, and I'm exposed to so many more people and their truth and their spirits, this diet culture is actually like seriously in the way. And I want to break it down for us because understanding is the first step to freedom. And we are in such a trance when it comes to diet culture. I mean, a trance. And by a trance, I mean like we're doing it and we don't even know that we're doing it. That's like, we got to break this spell first and foremost. Then we can heal, but we got to break the spell first. So I'm going to break it down for you. Probably do it in a bunch of episodes. It's a lot to do. And it's just the next piece of work for me personally in my own helping people heal is getting us divorced from dieting, right? Divorced with a great package, with a great package, lots of money, lots of houses, everything we deserve. And there's a story that Tara Brach told me, me and 500 people once. And I think this story goes across the board. Glennon Doyle talks about it in her book, Untamed. I mean, the story goes across the board. And Tara Brach tells this story about this white tiger in the Washington, D.C. zoo. And I may be bastardizing it, but you'll understand like the nature of this story. And you need to be honest. So put your listening ears on. So this white tiger in the Washington, D.C. zoo, they get this beautiful white tiger and they put it in a cage, as we do in the zoo. And the tiger just starts pacing the cage. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it starts to really disturb people, as it should. And what they do is they make a fundraiser and they get this protected land for this beautiful white tiger to live on and be able to live free, this beautiful protected land. When they let the tiger out of the cage and into this beautiful protected land, the tiger just walks the 16-foot by 16-foot by 16-foot cage that it's accustomed to. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we are all the white tiger. If you're struggling with being addicted to dieting or, being vulnerable to dieting, which is all of us, right? I mean, I could tell you stories. 12 years of recovery, and I'm still a little bit entranced by somebody promising me something. So you're not alone. It's not a flaw of your character. It's a flaw of our society. Promise you that. But we're all this white tiger. And that cage is diet culture, right? It keeps us captured and it prevents us from being in our natural habitat, right? And even if we're set free from it, right? Even if we know, I don't think there's anybody here listening who's like pro diet culture, right? I don't think there's any of us that's like, yeah, that's like that's a really great movement in our culture, diet culture. Yeah, that's wonderful. What a contribution. Right. So we're all like, yeah, but like, what do I do about it? But I think the other problem is that even if we're set free from it, we don't really know how to live outside of it. Right. And I've seen that over and over and over again with people. Like, we know that it's terrible for us. And by terrible for us, I mean our spirits. I mean our outlook on life. And I also kind of more behaviorally mean like our overall goals. Like if we're wanting to release weight, or we're wanting to not be obsessed with food, or we're not wanting to be obsessed with our bodies, our weight. Like I have treated so many people who literally cannot stay off a scale. Like we make behavioral plans to stay off a scale, to not be on a scale, and they can't do it. I mean, this thing has us hooked, to say the least. Diet culture has us hooked, right? It's normal to be in a cage of diet culture, just like we're used to seeing tigers in the zoo. It's like we are really those white tigers. And the behavioral concept, so Psych 101 today, team, this behavioral concept that is the white tiger, is called learned helplessness. And here's my working definition of it. You can get your pens out. It's going to be a little nerdy today, but I love a good science nerd class. And you have to be you got to be smarter than diet culture. That's really the thing here. You have to be smarter than diet culture. And you are. It's all in you. We just got to unlock it. But count me in. I'm team you. We're doing this. Are you in? Are you in? Let me know. I need you to let me know, because we can really start a revolution here. Okay. Here's what learned helplessness is. Here's my definition of it. It's not my definition of it. Here's the definition of it. It's a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. So it's a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness, right? I mean, isn't that all of us in diet culture? Like I can't do, I'm probably just going to be this way forever. I can never get it. I can't get it. I'm hopeless. I'm going to be this way forever, right? And it comes from a traumatic event, which is, we all have a lot of those in our diet histories, and even just in our histories, or a persistent failure to succeed. And we lose our will. I mean, that's what ends up happening with all of this ongoing persistent diet failure. And just a quick reminder, it's not you, it's the diets. It's not you, it's the diets. We got to make you smarter as to who you choose to hang out with when it comes to healing your relationship with food and your relationship with yourself. We're going to talk about that, but never blame yourself. There's $1 billion industry waiting to co-opt you. You know, there's just $1 billion industry waiting. But we're going to get smarter and stronger than it. Count me in. So what ends up happening with this persistent failure is that we lose our will. We lose our will to steer in another direction, right? Because the truth is, us as these white tigers, well, we have the key to get out of it. We just don't remember how to use it. I mean, it's probably not even locked. We probably could just push it open and walk out, but we've gotten so habituated that we forget that. We've lost all of our power. We've given it all away. It's time to call it in, my loves. It is time to call back your power. Enough is enough. Dr. Daniel Tomasulo, who I'm currently manifesting to come on What You're Craving. Come on in if you want in on this manifestation with me. I'd really appreciate it. But he's a positive psychology psychologist and a professor at Columbia. He wrote a book called Learned Hopefulness. And he discusses like how when we're exposed to something that's painful, something that we think isn't going away. So when we have this chronic exposure to something that's so painful that we never think is going away, issues with food and weight and dieting, that evolution has taught us that we should just shut down. We should just die right there. And that a switch in our brain turns off. And that's really where depression comes from. A shaman once told me, side spiritual note, a shaman once told me that depression is the stop sign of the soul. It's always sat with me. I really appreciate that definition of it too. So listen, not learned helplessness is a thing, but if we really get deep about it, nothing's learned. We're not learning to be helpless. Evolution has taught us this is never ending. So just die. Take your will out of it. It's a bad use of energy, you know? And so as it turns out, learned helplessness isn't necessarily a behavior. It's a trauma response. So much of diet culture is a trauma response. And we're going to learn all about that. Are you coming to class with me? Because I'm in for this. I'm here for this. I am here to empower you. This is what's going to happen. Revolution time, kids. Revolution time. Gabor Mate, who's like the king of trauma. Like, if you don't know him, go know him. Because a lot of people will say to me, I don't have trauma. Come on. I don't have trauma. Trauma's war, right? Trauma's rape. Trauma's inside. I mean, yes, that's absolutely true. It is all of those things. But you probably do have trauma. Listen to this definition of trauma. I'm so into it. He says, trauma is a psychic wound that hardens you psychologically, that then interferes with your ability to grow and develop. It pains you, and now you're acting out of pain. It induces fear, and now you're acting out of fear. Trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you as a result of what happened to you. Let me say that for the kids in the back. Trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you as a result of what happened to you. To me, that defines diet culture. I got put on a diet at age 7. If you think that that doesn't influence or it didn't influence my outlook on life, failing at something until I was 32 years old, if you don't think that, and you put your numbers in there and you put in the attempts that you made and how sometimes absolutely harmful they were. I mean, I've been doing this a long time with people. I've seen people wiring their mouth shut. I've seen people on the caffeine diet. I mean, I've seen it all. And I ate my way through bariatric surgery. So, count me in on this Gabor Mate definition of it. That's how we have to start. We have to actually see the severity of this thing. And it is absolutely, we are in a space from all of this diet trauma that we're acting out of pain and fear. We have to heal that. That's our job, right? I always think about this woman who filled out the coaching form at my clinic, and we asked, what do you want out of a coach? I know I've shared this with you before, but it's all of us. And I said, what are you looking for out of a coach? She said, listen, I just need someone who doesn't bully me and doesn't put me down. I mean, what have we gotten used to? What has this learned helplessness done to us? That's just someone you fire, period. But we've become so hopeless and we've become so desperate that we'll just take anything that comes along the way. If we have these little moments where like, oh my God, maybe I can get well. Okay, I'll choose you. Okay, you'll get me well. It's all inside of you, first of all. Anybody who's helping you, who makes themselves into a deity, fire them too. Fire the ones that abuse you and fire the ones that are making themselves into your guru. Fire them all, because the only way this thing works is when we find it within ourselves. Of course, the person you're working with should hand you some faith. I'm doing that with you right now. Hand you some faith to borrow. Hand you some faith as you have the cast on your spirit. We're taking the cast off. That's great. That's great. But at the end of the day, you don't need another dependency. That's not the deal. It's all inside of you. So this diet trauma has led us to a space where we don't think we can get well. This is unacceptable. You can. We just got to figure out how to do it. That's what we're doing together. I'm obsessed with you. I love you. So here's what happens, right? We take the Gabor Mate vision of trauma. We take the white tiger story. This diet culture has kept us in a cage and we don't even realize there's a way out. Like, we actually have the key. The door's probably open. We've been taught over and over and over again by the billion-dollar diet industry that something's wrong with us and that we're the problem of why we experience chronic failure. I referenced the coach who posted on Instagram that you're the problem, that every program can be done, but you're the problem. Stay away from those kinds of people, please and thank you. And then we're trying to find a solution and just, wanting to lay down on the floor. I don't blame you. I want to lay down on the floor just telling that story. Jeez, how amazing are we that we keep on going, right? Take a moment to appreciate your resiliency because you're amazing. I mean, here we are listening to a podcast, trying to get well. Count that. Can we start to appreciate that? Because that's the deal. So we have to learn how. So first of all, we have to accept that we're in the cage. We have to tolerate the discomfort of exploring life outside of the cage. These are all challenges, but you're up for it. I mean, what's the alternative, right? You just want to be pacing the cage for the rest of your life? Not if you're hanging out with me. I know that's not true. I believe in you. I believe in me. It's all possible. If I've learned anything in these years, everything's reparable, change is possible. I believe these things wholeheartedly, right? And the other thing, which I'll remind you of, that I remind you of often, which is you never know when the change is coming. So you got to stick around. That's the deal. That's why I really always beg you to never, ever, 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 ever give up on yourself, because you just never know which one's going to stick. But when it does, guard it with your life. Remember, I always say that. I'm guarding these 12 years with my life. So eventually we realize that life outside of the cage is actually safe. We can learn to thrive in our relationship with food, but we still have this narrative of diet culture that's it's got to be perfect. It's got to be quick. And we have to really untangle all of that. There's some beautiful work for us to do is all I'm saying. There's a lot of belief system stuff. And remember, a belief is a repeated thought. You get to actually choose what you believe. So if you're thinking, right, I really want you to take a moment today and think about what beliefs sort of support me staying in this cage? Well, I can't do it anyway because I can't do it perfectly. I can't release all this weight. It's impossible. There will never be a day where I'll have a healthy relationship with food. I'm too far gone. All of those are changeable beliefs. Those might be beliefs that you're yeah, Molly, that's true. That's not true, but that's a belief that you've chosen to have for a really long time. It's an old abusive friend. You ever have those? You wake up one day, you're in a relationship with a friend or a partner or a work colleague, and you're like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm better than this. You're better than those beliefs. And that might sound simplistic, but there's a piece of it that's actually quite simplistic when we're shopping around for a new belief system. You can have a whole new belief system, which is that you are capable of change and you are deserving to be free of all of this diet trauma. So here's your homework. We're really in school today. You know what I mean? The thing is, the end game, of course, is creating a sustainable solution. I mean, it's just a quick 30-minute podcast, guys. I can't do it all for you today, but stay tuned. We can get this done. I believe this with all my heart and my soul. But here's some homework. I love it. Don't you love a good homework assignment? My best friend Drea, who was listening, she loves a good homework assignment. Nobody loves we're Virgos. Virgos love good homework assignments. I don't know other astrological signs, but I hope you all love a good homework assignment. So think about this. Tiger in the Cage, learned helplessness. Go Google it if you want. It's real interesting. Because the other thing about learned helplessness that's super interesting, and all principles of behaviorism, is that they happen across the board. They happen in humans, they happen in dogs, they're just kind of universal theories. So what are ways that learned helplessness shows up in your life? That's the first part of your homework, and here's a hint. Look for areas in your life where you are paralyzed and you stay still. Gabor Mate, where you're acting out of pain and fear. You're not the problem. You're not the problem. So I want you to, as you're asking yourself this question, I want you to soften. I want you to breathe and soften, because your first response is probably going to be no, well, I'm bad and I'm a terrible person and that's why I can't get this done and I'm hopeless. No. We need to go deeper. We need to find your spirit. We need to find your soul here. We need to find your heart here. Soften in, take a breath, try the question again. Look in areas in your life where you're paralyzed, where you stay still when action is needed. I want to say something about that really quickly. That's called willfulness. And Marsha Linehan, my beloved teacher of dialectical behavioral therapy, says when we're feeling willful, when we're stuck, we need to ask ourselves, what's the threat? When we're acting willful, we need to ask ourselves, what's the threat? And the threat in this way is a lot of repetition, and it's that trauma. We've gotten so hardened by pain and by fear that that's where we're acting from. That's the problem. We can undo that. We can heal that. I pinky swear on that. We can do that. Takes a little time, takes a little energy, takes a prioritization of it. Absolutely. No magic wands. I wish there was. I'd be happy to buy everybody a magic wand. But it takes some digging through the mud, like the lotuses that we are, you know? So look in the places in your life where you're like the shoulds, the can'ts, there's no points. You know, if you're entrenched in diatrauma, you'll find them really easily, right? And understand that this is likely a trauma response. You know, too many failures as a result of trying to find a solution will really get you acting out of pain and fear real quick. Be gentle with that. Be kind with that. You're all you have. And be excited because we're finding these pain points. And it's not you, it's diet culture. And if we can find these pain points, we can heal these pain points. I promise you that, right? I want to promise you something. And I want you to think about this. As you find these moments of learned helplessness, just gently try to say, is there a different way of looking at this? Have I been co-opted by diet culture? Has this been a history of me making choices that were reactive and from desperation, just letting anybody come and help me? I mean, these are all solvable problems if you look at it that way. And, you know, I love that Wayne Dyer quote. It's one of my most favorite quotes, you know, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And if we need new lenses on something, it is our relationship with dieting, because it is time to get divorced. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. I am here with you. I am here for you. And count me in on this. Count me in on this revolution. Hey, you're amazing. It's not you, it's diet culture. And we are going to get divorced from dieting. So, and with that, sending you all the love in the world. I believe in you with all my heart and soul. I really do. You got this.